Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So if you're interested in trading golf, this is how I approach golf when we reach the weekend. In the run up to the weekend, we have about 4 million players all playing at once, and the groupings are not random, but they're all mixed up. You could have a very high quality player playing with an amateur, for example, and it can be a bit mixed. So my strategy for that varies from what I would tend to do at the weekend. And when you look at what happens at the weekend, we approach Friday night and then the field gets cut. All of the players that didn't make the cut, which is a certain score that they need to reach by close of business on the Friday at a major, all other players get pushed out of the tournament, and then you're just left with the cream of the crop that play for the title at the weekend. Now what they do is that the tee times will vary, and on the final day what they will do is that the players that are at the bottom of the card that are not going to win the tournament go off very early in the day, and then the tee times get progressively later until we get to the two players that are expected to win the tournament that are at the top of the leaderboard, who then tee off last on the last day, being the Sunday. Now as they go around the course, they've obviously got players in front of them, and the way to trade golf at the weekend, and especially on the last day, is to look at all of the players that are in front of the group that are about to tee off, because they will be going through all of the holes at certain stages. The scores will be going up on the leaderboard, and then you've got the players coming off to tee up behind them that then have to catch them, or at least manage to get somewhere near the score that they're putting on the card. So what tends to happen is golf courses vary quite dramatically, and different golf courses play differently at different sections. So whenever there's a golf tournament that takes place, I will look at the course, I will analyse the course to see where players pick up and are more likely to pick up or drop shots as they go through that particular course. When a player is out on the course, I'm looking to see what holes they're likely to play and what is the chance of them dropping or picking up a shot over generally not one hole, because that's really difficult to identify. You know, a good shot or a bad shot, you're isolating the trade to a shot, and there'll probably be somebody on course that is very likely to be able to see that shot before you. So what I prefer to do is I'm looking at little groups of holes and saying what's the chance of somebody picking up or dropping a shot over that set of holes, and then I'm watching as a player comes in to that particular section. So for example, and I've said before, I love the US Masters or Augusta, and that is because it's played at the same course every year and I know the course inside out. If you look at any particular course, then you begin to learn the characteristics of that course. So for example, when you look at hole 10, 11 and 12 at Augusta, as soon as you mention the hole number to me, I can visualize where the tee is, where they're going to play that first shot, and how they have to get to the green. Now if we look at tee times themselves and the order of tee times, there can be many hours between the first player that tees off and the last player. So keep an eye on the weather, because if the wind changes direction or the weather changes dramatically, or the weather is pretty bad, that can significantly influence the way that the course plays. So if you look at the weather on that particular day, particularly the wind, that could change dramatically from first tee to last, so that may affect the scoring. So there's a little tip for you anyway. But when we look at a course like Augusta, what I've actually done is I've taken every single tournament that was played at Augusta, aggregated all of the scores, worked out what the score is likely to be on average, but then I've also grouped those individual holes into little sections so I can work out which are tough and easy parts of the course. So it reads here, number 1 I'll put down as tough, 2 to 3 easy, 4 to 7 tough, 8 to 9 easy, and you can see how I've categorized each of those into little groups. So it's funny because it goes tough, easy, tough, easy, tough, easy, tough. So you can see it flip-flops quite dramatically all the way through, and that makes perfect trading fodder, because players that pass through a tough spell without dropping a shot then go on to the easier spell where they're unlikely to drop a shot, and the player behind them could be coming through into a much harder section, and the guys in front of them are already in the easy section. So, you know, would you back or lay the player that's about to go into the tough section? You would most likely lay him, especially if one of his key competitors is now on the easy section of the course. Doesn't mean that it will necessarily profit, but it pushes you in that right direction in terms of exposing yourself to potential profit without without significant loss, because you're tipping everything slightly in your favour. So, for example, I can tell you at Augusta, if you go through holes 1 to 3, there's a 20% chance that you will drop a shot over those 3 holes. However, if we look at holes 4 to 7, there's a 70% chance that you'll drop a shot there. But when you go through to the next set of holes, that begins to fall away again. So if you're playing 8 and 9, or you've just left 7 and you're going into 8, 9, there's a 27% chance of dropping a shot there. And if the player behind you is going through, or a close competitor is about to start to tee off at hole number 4, then obviously he's got a 70% chance of dropping a shot there. So can you see how the two interact with each other from there? And then again, if we look at holes 10 to 12, there's a 63% chance of dropping a shot. 13 to 15, there's only a 29% chance of dropping a shot. And then when you get to the last 3 holes, 16 through 18, as they would say in the US, get in the hole! You're likely to, there's a better than average chance that you're going to drop a shot. There's about a 58% chance of dropping a shot there. So the question, of course, is how would you use this information? And I've already mentioned on the video already that when a player passes through a difficult spell intact, but a competitor is behind him that is about to reach that difficult set of holes, then you lay that guy that's about to hit the difficult set of holes, knowing that the person in front of him has gone right through it. And the best example I can give you here is in 2016, when Danny Willett won the US Masters unexpectedly. He was playing ahead of Jordan Spieth, in the group ahead of Spieth, and he had successfully cleared through Amen Corner, which I'm not going to explain what it is, but basically when you go through holes 10, 11, 12, they're a difficult set of holes, as I've mentioned already. And if you can get through them without dropping a shot, and your competitor is coming up through them, it's likely that they may drop a shot. So I've got all of the stats here from that particular tournament, the price that they were at, and what they were at different holes, and what they did at different holes. But if you look at Danny Willett's round on the last day, he didn't drop a single shot. It went par, 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 gain, par, gain, par, 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 gain, gain, par, and so on. So he didn't drop a single shot. When we look at Spieth, it was par, gain, par, par, drop, gain, 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 drop, 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 drop. So that drop, 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 drop bit came during Amen Corner. And as Danny Willett went into Amen Corner, he managed to actually do okay on there, didn't drop a shot, came out of the other side relatively intact. And then we had Spieth coming up to that particular hard area of the course, and he was at quite a low odds anyway, so it made sense to lay him at that particular point. What we didn't expect is that he would take a 7 on the 12th, which basically completely blew his chances of winning the majors. Now what I've done on the graph that I'm about to show you here is I've taken the score under par that they had on that final day, and I've inverted it so that you can see that the higher the graph goes, the lower the score was, and the more chance they had of winning the tournament. But if you look at Danny Willett's outcome, you can see that basically he held it together really nicely, picked up a few shots, and what actually happened, the way that Willett won the Master at the Masters, was that it was actually Jordan Spieth, blowing up around one of the difficult parts of the courses that plunged his score lower and allowed Willett to go on to win the Masters. But it's a great example there, and probably a slightly extreme, because you wouldn't typically expect a player to take 7 on any of those holes. It's a good example of exactly what would happen and what a good trade would look like on that. But what tends to happen in the tournaments is that this is going on all of the time. So you've got individual players playing through a certain part of the course, and other players that are on an easier part of the course, and basically the odds will reflect that consistently. The thing that I hate the most about tournaments is when you get a really uncompetitive tournament, because that makes it really hard to trade, because you've got a player priced at 4 to 1, and this describes Woods many years ago, where it was all about them and about nobody else. So you really want a nice competitive tournament, preferably where the weather isn't perfect either, and that tends to randomize things and scramble things up a little bit. So yeah, I hope that's given you some insight. I realize it's difficult to get your head around it a bit until you've actually seen it yourself, but you should have a look on the blog, because on the blog it details it in a little bit more depth. And also, if you go onto the forum, I will actually list out how individual players moved and performed over certain parts of the day. And I don't do that all of the time, but generally turn up during majors and give you a little bit more information in terms of how the market is specifically trading and how individual players are trading within that market. But anyhow, analysing the course will give you insight in terms of where the difficult and easy sections of the course are, and that will allow you to anticipate where the likely moves are going to occur within the market.